This is a foundational overview for neural kinetic meditation, which just means it's sort of my understanding of meditation, and there's lots of understandings of meditation out there. Uh, when when I speak of meditation, I'm usually referring to something that is not moving. Movement, you can be meditating all the time, but for the most part, I find it useful to focus on meditation when I'm not moving, because movement often requires a lot of interaction with unconscious parts of my psychology, be it my body limbs or other people or objects. When I'm sitting still, I can focus on only the conscious aspects of me and how the conscious aspects of me are moving around. And so, isolating that from movement as much as possible just kind of clears up the picture a little bit. So most people have some familiarity with meditation of some sort of another. Popular ones are following the breath, vipassana, mantras or prayer, body scanning, um, any sort of things. And so meditation basically entails having an object of focus and then focusing on that, or being open to it, or paying as much attention to it as possible. And sometimes that object of focus is focus itself, focusing on focus, which is confusing. And so all these things have certain effects, or some people visualize objects, so you can focus on the imagination, or you can focus on a question or a riddle. And so neurokinetic meditation includes basically all of that, and we just kind of look at what's happening when we focus on something. So that's what we know with the quality of mind that is sort of being developed, or at least part of it. When the mind focuses on an object, say the breath or an imagination or a mantra or a prayer or a body part or a whole body or anything like that, when the mind focuses on that object, it is sort of grabbing it and then pulling it through time. It's stretching the thing out. It's grabbing it, and then as it moves, the thing anchors. It's anchored in what it was when it was noticed, and then it's pulled forward as a continuous object of focus through time, thus stretching it out. It started when the attention found the object, and then it goes as long as the attention stays with the object. It's creating a sort of a four-dimensional spread. This process of spreading something out that way it's interesting. It's like it's, imagine if you did this with a block of iron. So you take a block of iron and it's right there, and you notice, what is that iron sensitive or responsive to? Not much. You can sort of like pluck it or stroke it or make noises at it, and you don't see much movement or response from the iron whatsoever. If you were to grab the iron and start to stretch it out, it will become thinner relative to its edges. It's still the same thing, so some part of it has to become thinner if you're going to maintain contact here and here. As you pull those contact points apart, the iron has to change shape and distort into a quality that includes thinness or flatness or something. Otherwise, the contact points break if it stops changing its shape in that way, relative to what it was anyway. As it stretches out, you could see it being pulled into something like a guitar string. Once it gets stretched long enough, suddenly if you were to pluck it, it makes a loud noise, or if you were to sing to it at the correct frequency, you could maybe make it vibrate as well in a resonant way. So suddenly you've got this block of iron. By stretching it out in another into other dimensions than it used to exist to, it becomes more sensitive to movement. That's more or less what you're doing with meditation, is that you're taking an object and stretching it out so that it becomes more, you become more sensitive. So instead of you're stretching your mind out in relationship to the object, is a better way to do it. You're keeping that relationship with the object, and then by maintaining a single pointed focused awareness, you stretch out and sort of you could view yourself as enveloping the object, wrapping around it, or stretching so thin but still remaining in contact with the object that you can start picking up more subtle emanations from it that your mind was not responding to those emanations at first because it was too dense around the object. So you meditate on it and it starts to stretch out. Once you get to a thin enough thing, it starts responding to very, very subtle emanations of the object, at which point when we stretch out to a point to where our level of response or subtlety or sensitivity changes, that's what's often considered to be a peak experience or sort of an insight or an aha, is when the mind fundamentally changes its qualities, when the block of iron goes from being something that just like rings solid to suddenly being stretched thin enough that it's bang, you've made a guitar string. That change in state is the sort of epiphany or the peak experience. And so you can have those epiphanies, peak experience, and changes of state of mind in many different facets of mind. So you can stretch out holding a thought or a prayer or focusing on consciousness itself, or stretch out and become more sensitive in the heart area or to the body or to your own visualizations and imaginations. Really anything you can stretch out and become more sensitive to. And so you've got this ability to, you've got a couple of different abilities. One is what you're sensitive to. What have you put in the work to become more sensitive to with a single-minded focus? Are you sensitive to the heart, to the mind, to the throat? What have you put the work in towards? That confers a certain level of skill. And then there's another level of skill, which is how good are you at becoming sensitive towards things? How quickly can you stretch the mind out when you want to change its sensitivity level? And so that base skill is what I would call neural kinetic meditation. It's the practice of learning and looking at this process of how do we hold objects? How can I get better at holding various objects? Because if I can hold different types of objects, it gives me the opportunity to stretch out and become more sensitive to that whole thing. So can I hold an entire room? Can I hold my body? Do I just focus in on my breath? Do I focus in on a mantra? Can I hold an entire book? Can I just hold one sentence? Can I hold another person? That ability to grab and hold something is also sort of an ability that I think is directly trainable in and of itself if we understand what it is. And then the ability to hold and stretch out. If you get really good at these two abilities, you can basically learn and become incredibly insightful incredibly quickly. It only takes a couple of minutes of actually stretching out or holding an object to get an insane amount of information from it. In fact, if you were to just follow your breath, and you could make it so you start following your breath, you notice your breath, and then you stretch out and your mind doesn't wander for 5 minutes, you're probably in the top 5 or 10% of all meditators on earth. And that's just with a 5-minute interval. So in 5 minutes, if you can go 5 minutes into any object, you get an insane level of epiphany back from it if the attention doesn't wander. That usually takes people, they have to go to train at Vipassana retreats and other stuff just to attempt to do this single 5-minute feat. And then imagine 15 minutes into an object, whatever. At this point, you can start meditating on sort of archetypes and other larger things, such that you're learning without being in the presence of an object, because you recognize an event, and the event is made up of all these different archetypes, and so you know them very deeply from the meditation. As you walk up in the moment, you see the new thing. Even if it's doing something unique, if you're able to go into that same focus, you can get a ton of non-intellectual insight from it in a matter of seconds, in a matter of minutes, in a matter of whatever. And so that's a skill that I like to develop, rather than to constantly just be looking for the best meditation or chasing something like enlightenment or anything else like that. Those things are all that mindset of enlightenment, becoming extremely sensitive to consciousness itself, maybe we could call it like that. Like, I'm going to focus on my own beingness and see if I can focus on my own beingness long enough that I become responsive and sensitive to my own beingness. So all of these things have that fundamental skill of of grabbing and holding with the mind. That's all it's doing. So that's meditation is grabbing and holding the same way that when you go into the gym, what are you actually doing? Well, you're grabbing and holding things and moving them around. Well, which gym exercise is the best? Probably all of them, or whatever you feel like doing or having fun. And that's pretty much neurokinetic meditation, because it's just everything about neurokinetics is trying to get underneath to where are we actually learning and what are we actually learning. Besides that other stuff, some of the I'm terrible at ending them. I've done this twice now. I've done it twice now. I can't end it. That's all, folks. That's all, folks.
Bye.
That's all, folks.
This. Like, bye.
What if we? Bye. We're gonna talk about the mind here today. Neurokinetic meditation is what we call it here. Now, a lot of other meditation instructors would have you focus on focusing, and then they'll talk to you and they'll say, "Hey, that's a paradox, and only if you are advanced enough to grasp the paradox do you understand meditation, which is why you owe me $100 for this retreat. I've introduced you to the nature of paradox." Paradoxes form within fractals. See, there's a specific geometry to it, a sacred geometry to it that I know and you don't. And if you know the precise arrangement of the circles and of the squares, you can ascend. Some people would have you tell them that. No, wait. Some people would have you tell them that. And then they would give you money for it. Wait.
Lost yourself?
I lost myself. That's exactly what happened, which is why we are meditating, to find ourselves again. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for focus. We're looking for ourselves. Gosh, such a big subject. Oh, the Zen meditation. Zen, Irish Zen. Can I do an Irish accent anymore? No. No?
No.
No, it's terrible?
Yeah.
It's not right. It's not really Irish. It's like it's leprechaun.
No.
No. No, it's sort of a generic British. No, generic.
No.
Oh, it's my island. Arr, I need to watch. Which pirate movie?
You need to watch like Snatch or something.
Snatch, that's a pikey accent.
I know. I think you'd be better at that.
Pikey. Right? Let's talk about Zen. Zen. It's hard to do a hick accent and talk about Zen. There is Zen. Doing Zen meditation. Now, in Zen meditation, they give you a riddle. The stupider the riddle, the more enlightened you get from it, as far as I can tell. It's, what is the sound of one hand clapping is the main riddle they all study. What is that sound? That is a stupid riddle. Once you realize the stupidity of the riddle, then you get to go on to the next riddle, which is even more stupid. And then you have to realize how stupid that riddle is, and then they have like 100 riddles. And once you know how dumb all the riddles are, then you get to teach people the new riddles. And that's Zen meditation. Then we have Hindu meditation. Hindu meditation is that's the practice of don't know Hindu meditation. I like this. I like my hillbilly the best. That's all I can do right now.
Why don't you put on like a hillbilly outfit?
That's all I can. I need some straw.
I need some straw.
Straw. Now you see,
Oh,
neurokinetic meditation is like getting a blade of grass, and normally that blade of grass is all floppy. It's all floppy, and when the floppy blade of grass gets blown on by the Spirit of the Almighty, nothing happens. Nothing. No. I don't know if I'm magical or a peasant. So I've got a feather.
I don't know where my yeah. Don't give me that.
Now, when you got a floppy blade of grass, you see, the Spirit of the Lord can blow on that grass, and the sound of the angels will not come forth from it. You can try this yourself. Get a floppy blade of grass and go, no sound will come out of it. If on the other hand, you meditate on that grass, which is to grab one end of the grass and then grab the other end of the grass and pull it through time, not so much that you rip it apart. You don't want to rip it in two. You just want to pull it taut with the meditation. And then when God blows on it, you get one of those little like noises. And that's sort of what happens when you meditate on just about really anything. You can pull it taut. Don't rip it in two. Don't rip it in two. You pull it taut, and then when the emanations, when the word of the Lord blows over taut waters, it makes a noise, and then that noise is experienced as perception or self or anything really, all things, for mostly all and it just opens up all sorts of philosophies and
George Bush.
and knowings. George Bush? Jib. Sound like Jib. Is there access to the tide pools down below?
I was just thinking that.
That's how you end a video.